Rabbi Yitzchak Luria indicates to us that at the beginning of a service, we should say, Hareini mikabel alai mitzvat ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I accept upon myself the positive commandment to love my fellows as myself. So I'm looking around and I want that there should grow in us that sense of Ahavat Yisrael, a love for all the God wrestlers in the world, in such a way that we feel that they often bring this mashal, this analog, and say, how could you be angry with your fellow? It would be like if the right hand would be punishing the left hand. You know, since we're all part of the same body, as it were. So to know that we are together in this is so remarkable. Hey, you guys. Good morning. I soon want to say a bracha about prayer, but before we start with that, because I can say before that I have love for all of you. So what I'm about to say doesn't mean that I want to deny that. But it is also necessary to be able to say, are you really happy with where you are spiritually? What are the things that you have been battling with all the time? Because when you want to study Torah, it is important to listen to how the Lublina, when he began to study Torah, he would say, Oy Rebbeinu Shalom. It is said in the Psalms, unto the wicked God has said, what business have you got to study my law? You know? I don't want to be among those people who are the wicked. So when we look at what is not happy in our hearts, take a moment, because that's tshuva, that's toba. That's where we have to begin. And it's not in the head, but when you start feeling it to the point that you want to give a krechts, a sigh. Oy, 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 oy. Let's hear it. Come on, give a oy, 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 oy. Yehi ratzon, Rebbeinu Shalom, may this sigh of ours be accepted by you as a token of our real interest to become better, to be more harmonious with your will. So, if you study Torah without that attitude, that you want it to be for you a medicine, a sam hachayim, it can become a sam hamavet for people. It can become a poison. You know, if I go, yes, I enjoy history. Yes, I know anthropology. Yes, I know all these kinds of things. And yes, this is a document, and it was... I look at Reb David, who deals with those documents and which one is first and so on and so forth. And that's all true. At the same time, if it is seen as the product of people who were trying to, how would I say, run your life and say, you got to do it this way, you got to do it that way, it's not going to work. It works when we say, I yearn, I long, Lasot retzoncha lahai chafatzti. My desire is to do your will, oh my God. And then comes a beautiful appendix to that. V'toratcha betoch me'ai, and your Torah should be in my kishkes. If you have seen you use a computer and you use sometimes a virus detector, and once you get a nasty piece there, and then it says quarantine, delete, right? That's what we need to have when it say v'toratcha betoch me'ai. I want your Torah to be my kishkes, as a memory resident program that says I don't want that kind of stuff in my thoughts, in my words, and in my deeds. Having said that, so we can say the next part. I want to tell you that Chaver ani lechol asher yirucha. I am a friend to anyone who is a God-fearer. Yesterday, dancing with Baba was a sense of Ras al Chikmat, Reshit Chochma Yirat Hashem. We both have a sense that we are being seen by God and that we want to affirm God's unity. Oh, is it good to have such friends on the other side of the fence and to deal with them. And when I had friends on the side of Christianity who were so precious and dear to me, because they were fellow prayers. So I honor them all, the meditators, the people who sing chant mantras, who offer sacrifices in the fire pit, all my relations who are sitting in sweat lodges and offering prayers. I honor them and love them all. And yet I have to say that for wherever I looked, I didn't find such a thing as covenant. It is good to say that I surrender to God and that I'm a servant of God. But what a chutzpah to say that God and I have a deal, you know? And it says, Atem hemartem, you have bespoken me. Ani hemarti, I have bespoken you. We have mutually bespoken each other and made a covenant. That is a wonderful chutzpah. And at the same time, it has an obligation on both sides. So I just want to affirm that, yes, we are members of a covenant, and with that we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And now comes a beautiful next part and says, V'harev na Hashem Elokeinu et divrei Toratcha b'finu. Oy, let our tongues, our mouth water when we get to Torah. You get it? It's so delicious. I can't wait until I get my first shtickle of Torah. Like that. And we say, and for us and for our children's children, and the children of our children's children, Baruch Hashem. Sometimes there are some people who have great-grandchildren already, and I have them, and it's so wonderful to see that they are involved in Torah. Because I want to say, if we are not, as members of the covenant, learning Torah a little bit every day, v'higita b'hem yomam v'layla, if we don't learn a little Torah, then we're just, how would I say, we vote Jewish, you know? There is a guy, he is a tyrant in the household, but he votes Democratic. You know, so it really, we really have to have a sense of bringing in that learning. And so the question is, we're going to talk about counting Sphira and all these wonderful exalted ideas, but it has to do with every day finding a little bit some Torah learning. So in these 6 weeks between Pesach and Shavuos, it's 7 weeks, but 6 Shabbatot, our custom has been to learn one of the Pirkei Avot, translated Ethics of the Fathers. Not a good translation. It doesn't say anything about the fathers. In the Shemon Esrei it begins, our God, our father's God, our mother's God. We go with all the, nothing of the ethics of the father. But the Hebrew word avot means sometimes chief, cardinal principles. As you speak about avi avot hatumah, avot melacha, these are the central things. So the central thing begins with something that doesn't belong to Pirkei Avot, but from Sanhedrin, and it says, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba. I know that people would often say, don't worry, there's no such a thing as death, we shed the body. All of Israel have a part in the world to come. We'll see you on the other shore when we miss you. And last night was so clear that some of them can come from there to be with us as they were. So remarkable how this is. But I want to use a different form of translation, much simpler. Yesterday, it was very clear who was going to sing what and when. When Isa was singing in the Oriental mode, I went back to a time before the First World War. During the Ottoman Empire, Jews were living in Aram Naharaim, the Aram of the two rivers, which is Mesopotamia, yeah? And they also lived in Aram Tsova. Aram Tsova was Halab, Aleppo, and Damascus, and Baghdad, so close to the place where the old yeshivas of the Babylonian Talmud were. And they had a beautiful, distinctive way of prayer. And the melodies that they used are so not what we are used to, but they were makamat. And so, Isa, I don't know where you are, but wherever you are, I just want to say blessings, mavruk, shukran, everything. Ah, bless you for singing this way, because we need to hear it again this way. So, as it was yesterday in the Kabbalat Shabbat, everybody had a part to play. And I want to say, the notion that people say everybody has to say the same thing and has to play the same part is a stupid thing, then the play will never come off. If everybody's going to say to be and not to be, it's not going to be a play. Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek le'olam haba. Everybody has a part to play. And that has to do with the individuality. And if you say, but he isn't playing such a nice part, then you say, Ve'amech kulam tzadikim. Your people are all righteous people. Le'olam yirshu aretz. They will inherit earth. Netzer mata'ai. Do you think that you made yourself? Hu asanu velo anachnu. He made us. We didn't make ourselves. So we are planted. And why are we planted? To be God's garden. Netzer mata'ai. Mase yadai lehitpa'er. Ekev is a healed. So you don't have to be ahead to say and to understand these things, even if you're way down on the heels, down on the heel or something like this, yeah? But you can still praise God. Ben mehalalel, somebody who says hallel to God. What does he say? Histakel bishlosha devarim. Look at three things, but I want to take a look at the word histakel. He says consider, but mistakel means to look at something, to see beyond. I look over there at that tree and the roots that are above, and when I say, what do I see? I see roots from a tree. But if I'm mistakel, I realize that the whole balance of the tree and the power that it has depends on the roots that are strong and so on. So when I derive from my looking something that leads to seichel, that's the kind of looking that's called contemplate. Contemplate. Now I want to say that there are some people who are very good with emptiness meditation. But we are doing a lot better with fullness meditation. When I look at the Chumash where it says, "V'yadata hayom v'hashevota elavavecha," you should know it today, and you should bring it back to your heart. Remember always the heart, the heart, the heart. If it touches the heart, those of you who know that if you have to take an EKG, it needs to be amplified a great deal. But if you go and do the heart, that has power, that has energy, a lot more energy. So the heart has been moved out of the academy. You get yourself a job at the university and you know all the footnotes, but you also want to bring in the heart. And then there's some people who wrinkle their noses at that. Pretty soon they'll also want to bring in the soul, and then where will be academics be with our footnotes? So histakel. I wish that at every university, every high school, every school, there would be some time where the teacher would say, now that I've talked to you about the Alps, I'd like you to go and daydream how you're going up the Matterhorn. What a difference it would make if people would daydream these things and bring him. That's v'hashevota elavecha, bring back to the heart. So he says, histakel, look at three things. Ve'ein ata ba lidei avera, and you will not come to the hands of an avera. I like that. I don't know, you're not old enough for that, so what can I say? But if you would have been on the east side in 1905 and gone through, there were the push carts there on Rivington Street and so on, and there's a dry goods store, and there is a menswear store, and there's a guy outside who is the one who pulls you in. A schlepper, you know? And come, let me show you. I got a bargain. I lose $5 on every pair of pants I sell. How can you stay in business? The turnover. You see the narishkeit that's in that. But lidei means there is a schlepper there. And when we get ourselves into occasions where the schleppers of sin are, you know, it's very hard. So if you look at these three things, you're going to avoid the hands of those that schlep you to do an avera. Now, the three things that are being said are good. The way he interprets them is also good, but not necessarily where you were when Eve took you to that place. No from where you came. That would be from where, me'ayin, from where. But there's another reason. Know that you came from nothing. That you came from the divine ayin. Ula'an ata holech. And to where you're going. Velifnei mi ata atid liten din v'cheshbon, and before whom do you have to give an account of yourself? I want to tell you, if I could have the whole day nothing but work on Pirkei Avot with you and unpack some things, do we have to tell God what the din is when we make our cheshbon? So Reb Nachman of Breslov puts it so beautifully. When you come before God and you think you have to be very frum, and an angel says, what should be done to somebody who had a sandwich with something on? And you say, oi, for such a thing? 7 years hangings, 5 years shooting. And then they say, so that's the din. Yes, that's the din. Now let's make your cheshbon. Now let's find out where you are, what you have done, and we'll apply your din to your cheshbon. Be careful before you judge anyone and you get too frum making demands on other people, because it's going to come back to you. The thing when Eve was asking me what did I experience when I was saying I'm standing before God and know before whom you have to give an account, I want to tell you, I'm not afraid. Because Galui v'yadua lifnei kisei kevodecha, every day, every moment, I'm transparent to God. There's nothing new. The burden of guilt and the burden of shame is something that we have introjected on ourselves, but God knows and sees, and how does God know? The Piasetzner, Reb Kalmish of Piasetzner, such a holy being he was saying, it is written that God fulfills all the commandments. How does God eat matzah? It's a beautiful sefer that he has called Derech HaMelech, the way of the king, in which he says, with our mouth, if you can understand what they're saying in that God fills all the worlds and surrounds all the worlds, Memale kol almin and Sovev kol almin, how is it that my mouth is working? How is it that my mind is working? I want to tell you, when I started yesterday, I didn't have much koyach. But I was so grateful as you paid me attention. You gave me energy. And the energy was like I'm saying to the group mind, what should I share with this Shekhinah that's in this place? And this is remarkable, because what's coming through is that. So don't worry about having to give an account of yourself. Not guilt, not shame. Funny thing, doesn't the Rabbi Shalom know also when you're defecating? You know, so do you have to be ashamed of that? That's why we make a brocha and we say, you were there. It's known, galui v'yadua lifnei kisei kevodecha. You know everything that's going on. I'm so glad you make it work. Okay? So when it gets to that place, when I have the choice of things, I shouldn't do it. But when I've done it, who knows what the end is going to be and what the result is going to be. So I am very delighted not to be afraid of the din v'cheshbon. I know that when I get irradiated by that look of God, that it's got the carrier wave of love right there. I'm looking at number 2. Rabbi Hanina Segan HaKohanim Omer. Hevei mitpalel b'shlomo shel malchut. You should be one who prays for the peace of the government. She'il molei mora'a ish et re'eu chaim belahu. If it wouldn't be for the fear of the government, they would swallow each other alive. Do you know who said that? A man who was passed over many times. He should have been the high priest. But the high priest office was sold to the highest bidder by the Romans. So, but when it came to Yom Kippur to go into the most holy place, they were scared. They weren't ready. They had no, so they always needed to have the Sgana Kohanim. Would you represent us and be, you're the vice high priest. And so he was a vice high priest for many Kohanim. You see, Sgan, not HaKohen, HaKohanim. And he said, yeah, government is lousy. And if it wouldn't be there, it would be worse. Pray for the government. I want to tell you something. We need a lot of prayer for the government. The stupidity of people to say it costs too much. You're a member of a country club. You're glad to pay your membership dues. We live in the best country club at this point on this planet. And when I sign the check for taxes, I write thank you there. Because it is our responsibility. We have to do that. Could you imagine if private enterprise would have to run a business so big as this country, with its obligations in the world? We would have to pay a lot more for membership in that corporation. So I just want us to be soft on the issue of government and do that thing that we need to do, which is a trim tab, to make sure that not only will we have a good president, I mustn't say it in the shul, they'll use their 501c3, you know, but that president should also have a good Congress so that they shouldn't block one each other. And for this, and for the safety of him, we need to pray every day. I'll go to the next one in just a moment. I didn't know who Yosef and Nathan were until one day. In those days it was still cassette recordings, and I got a cassette recording that went, who is rich, who is happy with his, I can't sing it again because I forgot the melody, and who is wise. And they had taken pieces from Pirkei Avot and created songs around that, and I was so happy. The one song I loved a lot and that we have to sing to each other now is, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov used to say, friends, do not despair, for a difficult time has come upon us. Joy must fill the air. So, Yossele Leben, you, even the last times that you weren't at home for the aged, where they were taking care of you or your broken body, you were there teaching, smiling, encouraging. Nathan, sei gesund und stark bis 120 Jahre. For the vigil that you did at your brother's bedside all the time that he was in coma. May you have a lot of personal happiness and joy in this life. Amen. Now we come to the business about, I want to study Torah, but where do I start? If anybody is going to say that they don't have occasions how to study Torah, The internet is full with Torah. No excuse anymore, you know. You want to have from the left and from the right and from the this and from the that. You can find every kind of Torah. The piece of Torah that I'm very happy about that is on the internet is called Chok LeYisrael. It's a daily assignment. It has some Chumash, it has some prophets, it has some. It's okay. Don't worry about the shtick. I'll need it later. Okay. So, and it also has some Ketuvim, some parts Tehillim or some parts from Proverbs. It has a Mishnah, a chapter of Mishnah. It has a chapter of a little bit of Talmud. It has some Zohar. It has some Musar, moral teaching, and it also has some Halacha, often from the Rambam. I want to say, I'm not starting with you with this, that you have to start right away with Chok LeYisrael, but a little bit that is called, the Catholics call it Lectio Divina, to read the holy, to read the divine thing. But it's very hard to do it alone. So that's why in Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hanina ben Teradion, he was one of the 10 martyrs of the state, said, Shnayim sheyoshvim ve'im b'neihem divrei Torah ze moshav leisim. Two people sit and they don't have Torah between them. What can they do? They can only talk the same old social nonsense that they have. There are some people who come to a Seder and they think that they should continue the same conversations that they're used to do, the nonsense conversations, and they don't have a sense of how do you share at such a solemn meal? So that's why Rabbi Hanina ben Teradion says, no, this is a mockers, a scorners session. Aval shnayim sheyoshvim v'yesh b'neihem divrei Torah. Two people are sitting down relaxed, and there's Torah between them. Shchina shchuya b'neihem. The Shchina is soaking between them. It was so wonderful when we were in the mikveh yesterday. We all were bathing in the Shchina at that point and dipping in it and so on. It is like the mother's womb. We were able to come back and get reborn and come out clean, and how wonderful that was. So when you sit down and you talk, what can you say to each other? What's this business about the number 8? Imagine if I start with that. 7, I know 7 always goes 7, 7. But then, remember yesterday? Da, 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 da. Yeah, right? Why is it that you want to go there? Because the octave gets completed this way. And when people had to become priests, like the sons of Aaron, this is what we're going to read this week. And it was on the 8th day that the thing that had to happen. That's why we say you should learn Torah not 100 times, but 101 times. That's why we have Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeres after that. There's always that extra day that says, what is it that when you want to celebrate a birthday or something like this, you do something extra for the person whom you love, and that registers. Okay, so 2 people. How do we know about that? Because as nidberu yireh Hashem ish el re'ehu v'yakshav Hashem v'yishma v'yikasev b'sefer zikaron lefonav liyireh Hashem l'chosh v'shemo. Then that those who feared the Lord, who respected God, speak one with another. Nidberu. In Yiddish it would say, Zamzachadurch gerät. They talked themselves through. They talked themselves out. They didn't have to hold back. Nidberu. One to the other. And God is listening in, and He hears it. And it was written in the book of memory before God to those who are, and the title of the book is called Yireh Hashem v'Choshvei Shemo. Those are the people who who are in respect of God and honor His name, hold God's name chashuv, worthy. Whenever I make a phone call for help, technical help or something like that, it'll say this call is monitored for quality purposes, for the training and so on and so forth. People are angry about the invasion of privacy, as if, that whole sense that right now there's a responsibility that I have. Do I want to give you good stuff? Is this what God would want me to say at this point? And if I'm not aware of this, I shouldn't be teaching Torah. So that's what he says. Vayakshev Hashem, God is listening in and hearing this. Ainli Elashnaim. Okay, it would be good if I had some Havurah, if I could sit with a friend and study Torah, but I'm all alone. What am I going to do? So he says, how do I know even one person who is sitting and studying Torah Shekadosh Baruch Hu Kovea Lo Sachar, that God appoints for him a reward? Shenemar Yeshabadot V'Yivdom Ki Natal Alav. I just want to say there's another statement elsewhere that says, if you sit and study Torah, God is your Havurah. And I want to share with you, there was a time before I got to the yeshiva, I had to work. We had just come to America and I was working in a fur shop. And at night, when I was able to be by myself, we lived upstairs on the third floor. And the middle floor was the women's shul and the bottom was the men's shul. And I had a key to the shul. And I would go in and take a Gemara and sit down. And with my heart invite God should be present and teach me. The way in which the text opened up to me and the way in which I felt seen helped to learn. So if you're alone, do this as a shiviti learning, being in the presence of God. Now why did I pick Pirkei Avot in this particular chapter? Because I was told to do that. Okay? But I want to say something else. They tell us, man debai lemeh chasida, anyone who seeks to become a chassid, to serve God with desire, and give that extra awareness to that, should study Mile de Avot. He should study Pirkei Avot. Why is that? Because if you want to make sure that each day you will be working on the sphere that you have to work on, and you ask yourself, what tools can I use? The tools are here in Pirkei Avot, and that's why I want you to continue to study